Hey guys, this is the part 4 of the illustration tutorial from start to finish. Today we will cover the inking part of this illustration. But first I need to trace the sketch that I made in the last video using my favorite mechanical pencil, Pilot S20, which I used in the last video too. And here I traced just the outline of the objects because what we need is just the position and the shape of the objects. And I want to render this illustration spontaneously in the inking stage. Usually I make the sketch very detailed, like what you see in my Game of Thrones illustration. If you haven't seen it, you can check my videos. There I make the sketch looks like a final art, then traced it in my lightbox directly with ink. Actually, there is nothing wrong with that method. You can use it if you want to. There are several artists that I look up to using that method. One is Aaron Horkey. Maybe you knew him already. He's a legendary screen print artist. And the other is Andy Brasse. He's a panoramic artist, but actually he didn't use a lightbox, but he inks over a final pencil art directly on the paper. I think every artist have their preference of the method that they use. There is no correct way or wrong way of doing things because the goal is to make your art better, and you can use any method that you like. You can copy other artists' method if you like to, but I think it's much better if you can find your way of doing things. Do experiments with your medium of choice or other medium. That is actually a part of your journey to become a better artist and make a better art. And I use this method because I experiment with it and I like the result. It looks much more natural for me, and I think I will continue using this method. Here I draw some little flower, and with a crosshatch method I render the grass below it. I make this part really dark because it's covered by the log's shadow. When I hatchet the grass, I used a slightly randomized angle, just slightly, so it can looks more natural. Here I crosshatch again to make it very dark, and here I outline the tall grass starting from the front. And as you can see, I don't really follow my pencil sketch. It's okay because I feel like it's better this way. I'm starting the grass from the front to the back because the front grass is not covered by anything. I draw the grass one by one by following from its tip to the base, making it cross each other to make it a little more interesting to look at. Once I found my base shape of the grass, the rest I can fill it up with hatching. And now I start to hatch the log starting from its branch. I'm looking at my branches reference for this and thinking about the light and the shadow so I can shape the branch the way it's supposed to be. For this part of the log, I want it to looks like it's broken in a natural way, not by a machine. Here I cross hatch the log to make it darker. The grass part below the flower is always darker. And now I draw the foreground flower because it's a light colored flower. I use like stippling to make a shape of the flower. These are some tiny flowers that grows on that tall grass. Now that I'm done with the pencil outline, I erase it with my soft eraser so it doesn't pick up any ink. Grass hatching for me is meditational because it doesn't require thinking. I just dip my pen in an ink and start hatching. Now I start drawing my bear, start from his face, and also sorry there is a direct sunlight in my room, so it's a little too bright. I start hatching the bear from the darkest part, and because this is a black bear, I need to cover the entire body with hatchings to make him looks really dark. For rendering the fur, I use the same technique as with the grass, but with fur, the direction of the fur is following the bear's body shape. As you can see, I leave the top part of the bear's body uninked because the sunlight is shining from the background to the viewer's eye, and that makes the top of the bear very light. It's called edge lighting, a common type of lighting used to separate the focal point from the background. And you can learn many of this type of lighting conditions in James Gurney book Colors and Lighting, if I'm not wrong. It's a very good book. I learned so much from it. I really recommend it. Here I start hatching the mountain. Actually, in the sketch stage, I envisioned a light beam from the sun to the bear from top to bottom. But for a couple of reasons, I changed it so the lighting is I'm using a background lighting. So the mountains will also have the edge lighting, same with the bear, and I am happy with my decision. And now what I'm trying to do is I'm softening the edge of my hatching to the top part of the mountain. Now I draw the trees starting from the tip, just make some leaves. Here I look at my reference photos. By looking at my reference photos, I don't mean to copy it exactly as it is, but I try to reconstruct those leaves, learn how it interacts with branches or other leaves or trunk, and how it interacts with lighting and gravity. And then I try to make my own composition of the tree by using that information. The final stage is using white ink to make some grass and some correction if there's any. Thanks everyone for following this illustration tutorial. If you have any question, just comment below. The tools that I used in this video, I will put it in my description. And this original pen and ink illustration is for sale. I put it in my big cartel, which you can see the link in this description. Thanks for watching.